Hello and welcome from the University of St Andrews to our alumni, colleagues and friends watching from across the globe. I'm Katie Birrell, Development Officer, and I will be your host for this evening. If this is your first time joining us, Saints Talks are short presentations from leading members of our team. They cover a wide range of subjects, including areas of world-leading research from members of our academic community, and talks such as today's that give an insight into the student experience and opportunities available at St Andrews. You can find our full archive on the University of St Andrews Alumni Facebook channel. Our talk today will be given by our Director of Sport, Stephen Stewart, MBE, and is titled Ever to Excel, People, Place and Innovation in Building Sporting Success. The talk will last for approximately 30 minutes, with time at the end for Stephen to answer questions. If you'd like to ask a question, please submit it via the chat bar at any point during the event. We will aim to finish at 6:15 sharp, so please submit any questions as early as possible, and we will endeavour to get through as many as we can in the time we have available. Now to introduce Stephen. Stephen Stewart MBE was honoured in the Queen's Birthday Honours List 2022 for his outstanding services to sport. He is a passionate advocate for inclusivity and the transformative power of sport, and has dedicated his career to using sport, volunteering and education to uplift disadvantaged communities. His leadership at Saints Sports reflects a commitment to excellence, innovation and social impact. Stephen began his career in 1992 as a leisure centre manager in Northern Ireland, later serving as Deputy Director of Sport at Loughborough University from 1998 to 2008. He then joined the University of St Andrews as Director of Sport, where he has since led significant developments in sport provision and facility development. In addition, Stephen is a founding member of the Wallace Group, a coalition of 7 UK universities united by a shared mission to promote sport and health education in developing countries. As former chair of the board of directors, Stephen has played a central role in the Volunteer Zambia project, a flagship Wallace Group initiative that celebrated 20 years partnership with Zambian NGO Sport in Action in 2025. This programme fosters collaboration between UK student volunteers, Zambian community leaders and national sports bodies to build sustainable community sports hubs across Zambia. In today's talk, Stephen will reflect on St Andrews' sporting journey from the first sports centre built in 1968 to the £20 million redevelopment completed in 2018, the ongoing investment driving excellence today, and of course future plans as mapped out in our Saints Sports strategy. Stephen will celebrate team and individual achievements, highlight innovative initiatives, and showcase services supporting active health, children's sport, volunteering and leadership. Now, without further ado, Stephen Stewart, it's over to you.
Thanks, Katie. That was very generous. I'm almost blushing, so I think I'll just crack on. I will start a little bit before 1968, though, and the building of the first university sports centre. Just to say that the records that we have show that sport has always been important part of the DNA and infrastructure of student life here at the University of St Andrews. And the earliest mention we can see of a sports club is the Archery Club in 1618. And we then had the Golf Club founded in 1855. So if we move forward, we'll sort of set the scene with some student clubs. We can see here the Men's Rugby Club in 1890 and how they've transformed into 2025, lining up against the University of Edinburgh at the Hive Stadium in what we believe to be the world's oldest varsity match. We won that game, by the way, to go ahead 7-6 in fixtures. We have the Ladies Hockey Club in 1903, and again, fast forward to 2025. These young athletes are now playing in the National League, which is the highest level possible. So they're on a weekly basis playing against Olympic athletes and full-on international athletes. So they're playing at a really, really high standard for university athletes. The athletic unit itself was founded by Professor Scott Lang in 1901. We believe one of the first athletic unions in the UK. And the first major sporting gift was gifted by Andrew Carnegie in 1902 with the gift of the land that is now the Carnegie Fields. And we were quite early in that the Department of Physical Education was founded in 1955. So if we go fast forward a little bit, we come to 1968 and the original sports centre was built. And some images here that some of tonight's audience may remember, the old standard universal multi-gym. what in its day was, in the bottom left, was a dance studio well ahead of itself. Top right was a rather dated interior sauna, not very bright, not very inviting. The entrance to the sports centre is quite significant, if you can kind of hold that thought, because we will come back to that image and let you see the modern day sports facility. Bottom image in the centre is student badminton club training. And you can see even here back in 1968, the experience might not have been brilliant because whilst there's only 4 people on the court at any one particular time, there was crowds of people waiting around the outside in a queue, and the students would get 3 or 4 minutes on court and then back off and join the end of the queue. The bottom right is a really interesting photograph. A friend and former colleague, John Scott, taking swingnastics in the sports hall, which many might remember was the really early revolution in fitness classes, and John believes it predated the Jane Fonda revolution. So that's John Scott and his swingnastics. If we then transform and we move to 2016 to 2018, we can see the results of the university's 20 million redevelopment in sport. Top left, we can see the dance studio is now a dance and spin studio. Moving along, clockwise, we've got a state-of-the-art strength and conditioning studio, which is reserved for our elite teams and athletes and visiting teams and athletes. So we've had Manchester City, Manchester United, Barcelona have trained there. The Ulster, Edinburgh, Gloucester rugby teams have trained there. Wigan Warriors Rugby League have been in there, and regularly the Scotland rugby team train in that facility. And then the next 2 photographs to the right, show the student fitness suite as well, which is a 135 station, really fabulous facility for a student population of about 10,000. You can then see the outdoors of now, the front entrance to the sports centre, and you can see the extension that we put onto each side with the new sports arena and the tennis centre at the back. Our tennis centre, we are the only university in Scotland that owns outright its own tennis centre. We've got a 4-court indoor tennis centre that we don't need to share with the local authority, with Sport Scotland or Tennis Scotland. So this is our tennis centre. We're very proud of it. We have a tennis club that represents almost 400 members, and they get first crack at the whip in terms of the access to all of the really good tennis slots. So needless to say, tennis is now one of our key university facilities. We've gone off back outside. You can see the quality of the new external pitches that we've laid, with a 3rd generation football pitch there in the main picture, which serves also for rugby and lacrosse. To the right, there's the old grass rugby pitch, and just behind the sports centre, we have the latest in synthetic turf technology. We have a sand-dressed hockey pitch, which is the same type used in the finals of the recent Paris Olympics. And the little photograph that you see in the inset there is actually the rugby pitch, but it's prepared for a visiting soccer team, part of our pro sport offer, of which I'll talk a little bit more shortly. And it's a remarkable pitch, and one of the only university pitches in Scotland to be irrigated. So we're right up there with the very best Premiership football quality. So our students really do expect now and deserve the very best in facilities. So if we talk a little bit about some of our innovation, in 2009, we were the first university in Scotland to appoint full-time sports-specific directors. We appointed a full-time director of rugby, a full-time director of football, and a full-time director of tennis. That is now up to 8 full-time directors, and that is reaping real rewards in terms of student sport participation and student sport performance levels. We launched St Sport in 2010, removing the old University Department of Sport and Exercise and the old Athletic Union, and merging the St Sport brand, which is a partnership between the student-led Athletic Union and the University Department of Sport and Exercise. It's a unique arrangement in Scotland. Nobody else has taken that particular model yet. And it means that a sport is provided here by students for students, and the students are represented at every level in all leadership and management groups within the department. And we believe it gives our student sport leaders more professional experience and exposure to big decision making than any of our colleagues. So again, that's a really innovative a really innovative process that we've undertaken here. It was a relatively easy sell back in the day to convince the university to invest in sport because it was keen to look at the factors that made up the student experience. So we looked at the library, we looked at the music centre, and we looked at sport, and we looked at the student union as well. But there was other reasons for investing in sport. We believe that sport, a good sport offer, helps very much with recruitment and brand. We recruit students from all over the world now, and we work very closely with our colleagues in admissions. We believe that sport helps retain students and helps transit from school life to university life, and it really does give a great sense of wellness and friendship and development. A number of years ago, the Observer newspaper produced an article, and in it they said one of the most important things that a student can do in Freshers Week is to join a sports club for those very reasons. We work in partnership a lot with colleagues in student services, looking at aspects of health and wellbeing and how we can positively affect student life there. And we have a number of innovative schemes such as gym buddies, where we find some students to partner with students that normally wouldn't go to a gym or join a sports club. And it's a very discreet service that we offer that has impacted positively on quite a few students. We have evidence also that our sports participants tend to do better in their graduate attainment with slightly higher grades. And the same can be said that there's national evidence that shows that students that take part in sport and physical activity get their first job quicker, get the first promotion quicker. On average, their starting salaries is around about £5,000 greater than non-sports people. Underpinning everything we do, we have our recently published strategy for sport. We have four main pillars: performance sport, which is the very pinnacle of what we're trying to achieve, and we'll see more about that later. But we can't have a strong performance sport program without a really strong base to the pyramid, and that's our club sport program. And we've got some fabulous colleagues promoting and advising on our club sports, and we're very fortunate to be in a position now where we can support and help develop 52 individual sports clubs. We have a very strong, as I've kind of mentioned, active health program, which we factors across the student and staff population generally. And everything we do is also, we look at how we can positively develop our students. So we recognize that students come here for a world-class academic experience. We want to give them an athletic experience to match that, but realizing that we're not necessarily turning out professional athletes or international athletes. We want to use sport as a vehicle that will help these students develop as people, develop their rounded and grounded skills that will help give them their first job. In fact, we've got evidence now that some students will tell us that it was their degree from the University of St Andrews that got them their job interview, but it actually was their experience on the club committee that got them the job. So we're very pleased to play a part in that role. As I said, we've got 52 sports clubs. 45% of our students are members of a sports club. That's the highest in Scotland by a country mile. Our nearest competitor is there at 23%, and number 3 is there at 21%. So we're smashing that one. We have 274 organised student club training sessions per week, and we utilise 106 external sports coaches to support that student sport endeavour per week. So sport is really big business for us at the university. We entered 87 teams in the British University Colleges League. That's the British contest. And 8 teams are in the Premier League, which is the highest level possible. And last year, 14 of our teams won their respective leagues. And if you have a look at the table on the right, the blue bars that are rising are showing the number of Bucks points. So they're increasing as we make our investment in sport. Our Bucks points are increasing year on year. And the red chart that is moving left to right and decreasing is actually a positive sign as well, because that's our Bucks position. 2011, 2012, we were 26th in the UK, which isn't bad for a small university. Last year, we finished the record 16th, and we were the only university in the top 47 that didn't have any sport-related teaching courses, physical education, sports science, that sort of thing. So again, that reinforces the fact that we're a hugely academic university, but that sport is and increasingly has become part of our DNA. We've got our 8 sport-specific directors: basketball, football, golf, hockey, netball, rowing, rugby, and tennis. And some of our opportunities, I've mentioned that our hockey players are now playing National League. Our golfers have actually gone beyond that. Our golfers are now regular British champions, but they are now competing in the R&A European Tour Series. And last year, our best male and our best female golfer both won their respective R&A European Tour Series Order of Merit. So we are now starting to compete on the international stage. Last year, we had 37 sports scholars recruited from all over the world. We had 3 winning scholars out of 100 in Scotland, which is a Sports Scotland promoted scheme, and with 1 Arnold Palmer golf scholar. We support 156 performance athletes. That's with sports science, sports medicine, lifestyle management, and then some individual leadership skills such as communication, motivation, that sort of thing. And the people that we have delivering these services on behalf of our students are quite phenomenal. And some achievements there. Our director of golf was nominated for Scottish Golf Coach of the Year. Basketball was selected as GB Women's Under-16s assistant coach. And last year, our director of rowing, Lewis McHugh, was named Scottish Rowing Performance Coach of the Year. So I'm very fortunate, and our students are even more fortunate to be supported by some world-class colleagues. To put that into pictures, you can see there, I don't think I need to read them out, but the national champions at football, hockey, golf, rugby, more football, really are competing at the highest level. Hansine Marshall, we got our first ever gold at the Henley Women's Regatta. And if you look at the picture in the bottom middle, Sophia Isenberg, last year was her first student ever to be selected for the World Student Games. We were very proud of that, but even more proud when she came home with a gold medal, which was quite phenomenal. Ellie Monk won this year's intercollegiate golf stroke play champion. You'll see a bit more about that later on. Lucy Jemison won the English Amateur Championship. And I've mentioned Judd and Judy. Christina Armstrong Butterick continues to row and canoe as part of the Team GB training squad. So some phenomenal student sporting achievements. And I'll put that to life now with a little video, which I hope you enjoy. So I hope people enjoy a little bit of videography rather than listening to me. So that was our varsity rugby. Another massive investment that we're very excited to be part of is our partnership with Scottish and now with British rowing in the relatively new sport of coastal rowing. We were very much at the forefront of the sport in the UK with the investment of our first boats in 2021. In 2022, we hosted the inaugural Home Internationals Regatta, which was a kind of a test event for us. We didn't promote it particularly well, but we decided not to promote it strongly because we didn't know how well it would go. As it was, our student club ran a fabulous event, and at that time it was the second biggest beach sprints regatta in the world. 2023, we were named GB Coastal Sculling Academy, And we, in partnership with Scottish Rome, we appointed the world's first full-time beach sprints coach. You can see the image in the bottom right is our student crew recruiting in the Prince Albert II Coastal Regatta in Monaco, and we finished seventh in a field of world-class athletes. So that was an exceptional achievement. We continue our progress. In 2025, we were named one of 3 GB Performance Development Academies in the UK, and we were also named one of 2 GB Olympic training centres. We will hopefully have some athletes going to LA in 2028 based here. The British Coastal Sprints team recently got gold in the World Championships, and of the 11 athletes selected, 8 are based here and 4 row as members of the University of St Andrews Boat Club. So we're incredibly excited by this opportunity. And I want to put this into life as well, so hopefully you enjoy some big sprints. So I mentioned the golf as well. Last year, our golfers were fortunate enough to be invited into the US St Andrews Links Collegiate, in which our performance golfers played against University of Arizona, Howard, Northwestern, and ourselves. We finished a very respectable third. Interesting, the event went out live in NBC Golf and Sky Sports Golf. And at one stage, well, we had just over 500,000 unique viewers, including sort of 37,000 on-demand viewers at any one time. So that was a really massive step forward for our performance golf program in putting our wits against some of the best universities in the UK. We have been invited to play again this coming year, and we hope that projecting forward into the future, this will become an annual part of our golf program. And it really does allow us to market our performance golf program in the States, and hopefully we can deflect the flow of the country's top golfers to American golf scholarships. And I just let you enjoy a little bit of the intercollegiate golf.
Welcome everybody to the 3rd annual St Andrews Links Collegiate.
First on the tee from the University of California, Berkeley, Charlie Berry.
I also mentioned earlier our active health program. So back to the stuff that takes place here at the Sports Centre at University Park. We have an incredibly popular fitness classes program to which our students or staff in the local community enjoy. We run over 40 classes a week and we have over 1,000 participants in the week as well. So for us, performance sport, club sport, active health are all really important. We run over 40 plus personal training sessions per week as well for students and staff, and we employ 7 personal trainers to perform these tasks. We provide 10 hours of coaching to the local community involving 150 young athletes, and that tends to be talented young swimmers, triathletes, rugby players, footballers, golfers, and they're receiving a support here that they don't necessarily receive from their governing bodies or from some other ages, maybe perhaps because of our remote location, but it's very much a case of the university sport department, St Sport, giving back to the local community. We have nearly 8,000 St Sport student members, so that's 74% of the student population. So that's our 45% sports club members, and we have another 30% who aren't members of a sports club but take part in health and fitness. And again, we believe that's the highest number in Scotland. So I think it's another example where sport and physical activity have become part of our student DNA. We've over 1,000 taken part in our weekly lessons, including golf, tennis, climbing. We've got drop-in sports sessions every week for people who don't traditionally take part in organised sporting activity. We need to make sport and physical activity available for everybody, and that's facilitated by one of our sports development team, who will actively seek out students who wouldn't normally come to the sports centre. And we've had some great encouragement there, where our introduction to sport and sports clubs has led to behavioural changes, shall we say. And we've 36 teams play recreational football leagues, and that's involving over 500 students in the leagues. Some of those students won't play anything else. Some may be competitive rugby players or hockey players or whatever, but they play in recreational football as their fun and recreational activity. Children's services is massive for us. Again, supplementing and adding to the local government, local authority offer. We run 24 classes every week for between 2 and 15-year-olds. That's over 1,000 participants. We also employ 25 junior Saints coaches, most of whom will be students at this or other universities. And we have 20 volunteer coaches who will be students at this university, and we're giving them some volunteer and coaching experience. And we have 4 student clubs. So student sport clubs deliver these classes every week. Over the holidays, we run Easter, summer and October camps. We run sports-specific camps. So we run hockey residential, we run rugby, we run football, and we run a number of multi-sport camps as well. Our children's services team also run birthday parties for the local community. They're increasingly doing a number of staff team building days for other university departments, and we are now regularly hosting taster days for local secondary school pupils to come and visit the sports centre and see what university sport and life is all about. So again, it's a really important service to the local community. We're also massively big in student development and volunteering. I go back to something I said earlier about not producing necessarily professional athletes, but producing brilliant students. And we use our student development and volunteering program to do this. We've got over 600 student volunteers running our sports clubs, out of which over 50 of those are club wellbeing officers who will work in partnership with student service and looking after the wellbeing and the mental wellness of our student athletes. We have a really active international volunteering program. So every year we have a number of students go to Zambia, and in previous years we've also included South Africa, working with some of the townships there. We recently organised the 20th anniversary gala for our Volunteer Zambia project. So that's us 20 years this initiative has been running, and we'll celebrate that shortly. We employ student interns as volunteers and some paid professionals to help us run the clubs. And our volunteer recognition scheme is sector leading. 174 students have clocked up over 20,000 student volunteered hours, and we think that's really significant and a really key part of student development. And if we have a look now at some of the international volunteering stuff. Related to our children's services, we inherited the university nursery in 2022. It was felt at the time that there was a natural pathway between young children and very young children. So we now also look after the local children aged between 3 months to 5 years, and we have a 44-person nursery located at East Sands, which is a fabulous area for a children's nursery. So we know our pathway is from nursery through to tots, through to preschool, through to junior saints, through to secondary school kids. So I bring this to your attention because Saint Sport now are involved in delivering opportunities for children in this area at all age groups. And a lot of these children will be children of students and staff at the university. So the fact that we can run so many childcare, children's development schemes is a great wider benefit to the university, as it allows parents to come to work, and particularly during holiday periods, knowing that their children are being well looked after. I wanted just to mention a little bit about commercial and philanthropic areas. Total sport income now has risen to about £3 million a year, so it's quite a big business. And that's developed through sponsorship, philanthropic donations, membership scales. We generate some income. And of course, the university gives us some core funding that we would refer to as an investment in sport rather than an expenditure in sport. But I wanted to highlight this pyramid as well, because I think it's important to look at what the role of the sport department now is. It's not an athletic union just providing sports opportunities for people, because we do sports development as well. We do health and wellness. It's not limited to physical education, because we now need to look after the business of sport to help make it pay for itself. So we've looked at some of the things that my colleagues and I are responsible for it. And, we all contribute to student experience, sports development, performance sport. Sometimes we need to view ourselves as business managers. We're fundraisers. We look after student discipline. We help with student welfare. At times we're facility managers, and we look after health and wellbeing. So it's a really multifaceted role, and I'm fortunate to be surrounded by brilliant colleagues, and everybody here has got a strength in at least one of those areas. It makes my job an awful lot easier, in truth. We run in partnership with our colleagues in residential and business services, a pro sport business which deals with some of the commercial income. Last year, to put some numbers in that, we hosted a World Rugby Under-20s Championships, where we hosted 8 nations here for a 3 or 4 week period. They came and they lived here, they ate here, and they trained here, and they practiced here, and they socialised here, and we bussed them through to Murrayfield for their matches. Fortunately, Scotland won it as well, which was great news. But that business, whilst it was great for the university and it was great for the local kids to come and watch it, it generated almost £1 million in income. So 121,000 for sport and 720,000 income for residential. So I think that's an example of where the business can supplement and help the business of the university. We're increasingly relying on commercial and philanthropic donations. We work incredibly closely, and fortunately, thankfully, with Katie and her partners in her development office. And just to give you some ideas there, last year we brought in 52k in some corporate sponsorship. We've raised 350,000 philanthropic donations. 90% of that or so comes in support of our performance clubs, which is great because that actually allows then some of our other income or some of our other generated income to supplement the club sport program or to supplement the sports development program or the children's services activity. And golf is the one sport where we believe our ambition is to be self-sustaining. We've recently advertised a new position for a kind of a golf type manager. But in the last 10 years, we've generated £650,000 in support for our golf program. And we really do think that's just the tip of the iceberg. So watch this space. Maybe in a year's time, if our director of golf takes a chat, he might be able to give us an update. So some of our funding challenges: core university funds the basic operations, and they funded very well. We're very grateful. But if we want to take sport to the next level, we need to continue to look at opportunities to top up that funding, that external support that drives up our excellence, innovation, and sustainability. Our scholarship program is becoming increasingly competitive. So whilst it's fabulous that we've got Judd or Judy or Ellie winning these fabulous golf competitions, really all that does is put them in the spotlight, and they'll get the tap on the shoulder, and they'll be offered a full ride scholarship for some of our competitors in the States. So we need to start to think about generating the lumps of money that will allow us to fund our scholarship athletes to that level. And again, it's the strapline there: strong scholarships, strength of our national and our international reputation. I've mentioned their golf that we really want to be in the business of starting to attract and be able to offer kids scholarships worth up to 50k per year if we're to realise our ambition to be a major player in world student golf. And that's me exhausted. You must be as well. So thank you very much for your time, and very happy to try and answer any questions. Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That was an incredible talk. And yeah, I feel very fortunate that I get to work obviously so closely with yourself and with sports, because it's very difficult not to be passionate about what you're doing, and not just for the student experience, but community. There was a couple of things in there which definitely touches my son's life. He's only 9, and in fact he featured a couple of times in the varsity video because he was a ball boy during that. So during that game. So yeah, it's it's wonderful to be able to share obviously all that information further afield, because it's just incredible the stuff that sport does within St Andrews. I do have some questions for you. So the first one is from Andrew Smith, and he is a former St Andrews Blue, having represented Scotland in university judo. He says, I was captain of judo and played rugby at the university. Later on, I trained at the Budokwai Club with Olympic hopefuls and medal winners. I won several regional UK competitions. I also played rugby for London Scottish and helped them with fundraising for professional players. I was also a good rower, but could not find a rowing club back in my day. I am now doing a postgrad course online in digital art history. I'm in St Andrews periodically, and my questions are, so there's 2. The first one, can I train with the judo club?
In principle, yes, Andrew, we'd be delighted to offer that. We do have some checks and balances in place that we need to make sure that we're aware of external people coming in to train with our student clubs. You're not really external. You're a former student, you're a current student. So I'd be very happy to facilitate that. And I'm sure Katie can pass on my contact details and would be delighted to make that happen.
Absolutely. And second, how could St Andrews Rugby provide players for London Scottish?
Great question. I'm not sure, Andrew, if you're still associated with London Scottish. We have been running the varsity game, rerunning the varsity game, I think, for the last 8 years, probably the last 10 years, but then it fell into abeyance given the 2 or 3 COVID years. We actually initiated the game itself in partnership with London Scottish, and we held it down at Richmond on St Andrews Day for the first couple of years. And it was a genius piece of marketing for London Scottish, because they were then selling themselves to ours and the Edinburgh University London-based alum. So we have got very well established links there. And I know our director of rugby, David Morris, has got incredibly strong links with London Scottish as a former coach. So again, sometime when you're coming on to campus for a judo session, let's meet and talk about rugby and London Scottish links. But we have a number of recent graduates I know are playing there and will continue to play there.
Great, thank you very much. Second question comes from Derek Watson. Over the years and amongst all the successes that St Sports has achieved, what decision or approach or investment would you single out as one of the greatest significance to that overall success story?
Good question. I was at a talk last night for sports scholars, and Gary, one of the founders of Live Golf, talked about surrounding himself by good people, and that kind of really resonated with me. I think most people would expect me to say the investment in the sports facility was the biggest single decision, but actually it's a really important investment, but it's only bricks and mortar if you don't have the right people to work in it. And the investment, the decision we made to go and appoint sports-specific directors, leaders of sports, has reaped dividends. And this is not to underplay the influence of any other colleagues, but if we look at Jamie Carnegie, who's taken a student hockey club from 3, 4, 5 teams to now 12 teams, all coached, to the highest of which is competing at the national level. That's pretty phenomenal, and that's a massive growth in the sport of hockey. Stuart Milne, and it's probably wrong to name names, but Stuart, our director of football, has also got 8 teams, 12 teams. I think Stu has got 8 boys teams and 4 girls, and Jamie's got 8 girls and 4 boys. Rugby are now up to 7 teams in total. Our netball club is growing exponentially with Sally. Claire McCulloch, our director of tennis, has got nearly 400 members. So they've been exceptional appointments in growing sport, and that's had a really positive impact on other club sport because people now want to take part in sport. So I think I can attribute our success in sport and our success in sports participation down to having a team of brilliant people, all of whom are 100% committed.
That's a great answer, Stephen. Joanne Cecil, she asks, I'm sorry, my mouse has just gone over the question and done something. Bear with me. She asks, please can you tell us about support available for athletes who are runners, sprint, mid, long distance, and can St Andrews host university or national athletic competitions? And if not, is this something on the agenda?
Okay, so we can't host international competitions because we don't have a track and field facility. We had a 4-lane track previously, which we no longer have, but as a 4-lane facility could never host a competition anyway. But we do partnership with a number of local authorities, and we rent track and field facilities for our student athletes in both Dundee and off Fife Sport and Leisure Trust. So I think we access up to 3 facilities on a weekly basis. So we have a strong track and field club. We have an offer there for everybody now. But our ability to host future competition would be limited. And frankly, we don't have space to create a 6-lane national or international standard track and field facility. We did talk to Fife Council, the local authority, and Scottish Athletics about the need. Is there a need in this area for another facility? And the consensus was there wasn't, and that discussion didn't go very much further, unfortunately.
Great, thank you. I've got a question here about scholarships, and it's, can you talk to the process of offering scholarships to the US-based tennis players?
Okay, yeah. We have our sports-specific directors of sport are very proactive in targeting US-based players that they feel might be in a position to come and add to our programme. That tends to be postgraduates who have played their 4 years NCAA sport and can no longer play university sport, but we believe that they might want to continue and do a master's or a PhD, and we will then seek out and contact these players. We also try and build links with schools and governing bodies or federations in the States. And I would say that we're always amenable if somebody were to look at our tennis program off our Facebook or web presence and was interested. I would recommend they get in touch with the director of tennis, Claire McCulloch, or if any doubt at all, just come straight to me and I'll put them in touch with Claire. That's a bit of a woolly answer. We don't have, so we also have a colleague that works for our admissions department, Sarah Smith, working in the States, and Sarah is very knowledgeable about our sports scholarships available and the mechanisms in which we can speak to potential athletes and how we can help relocate them and recruit them into St Sport.
Thank you, Stephen. So one last question. There seems to be a current emphasis on volunteering, including what must be a logistical nightmare in sending students to volunteer in Zambia. Why the emphasis on this area, and what is the benefit to university sport?
Okay. Whoever, thank you for the question. It's a really important part of our giving back to the community. So we pride ourselves, our St Sport athletes pride ourselves on having local, national and international delivery. We help it makes our students better people. It helps them recognise the things that their university does to support them and how they can open up the same opportunity for other less fortunate individuals. Logistics, it can be a nightmare, but again, we utilise the strengths of our great young people to organise that themselves. So we'll sit back and give some guidance from behind. And a lot of the fundraising, a lot of the travel planning, a lot of the in-country planning is all done by our students, and it's great kind of life skills development for them. And it's something that I believe when we started this, it was a great opportunity for our sports students kind of stuck here in rural, remote St Andrews, who maybe didn't see what the other sports universities in the rest of the UK were doing. So we partnered up with the Loughboroughs, with the Bass, with the Cardiff Mets, and they're working in partnership now, and our students are seeing what the best sports universities are doing elsewhere, and that's really helped raise our standards of sports performance, participation, and as sporting individuals as well. So it's a really positive programme that we're delighted to play our part in.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I have had just one last question just pop through. So just to round up with this last one, says, Mr. Stewart, remarkable job you and your team have done developing sport at St Andrews. Congratulations. I was a Saints seconds football player in my school year abroad in the late 80s. My question is there currently any player recruiting pipeline and or relationship between the university and the MLS Next Pro or NWSL clubs? That's from Michael Flynn.
Okay, thank you for the question, Michael. I'm going to be deliberately vague because I genuinely can't answer the question directly. We have a number of pipelines, and our director of football, Stuart Milne, is very actively recruiting in the States. In fact, he's going off to America next week for a week, and he will have a pattern of schools and clubs and universities that he visits, and he's developed a network of people that help us recruit players. What I'd love to do, Michael, I don't know where you are, if you're in the States, and if you are, whereabouts, but I would love to get your contact details, or maybe if Katie could share them, I could share with Stuart Milne and maybe with Sarah and see how we can help take that forward. And if that was an offer of help, we'll take you up on it. Thanks very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for your questions this evening. Unfortunately, that is all that we've got time for. I do hope that everyone's enjoyed hearing from Stephen and learning more about sports at the university. Certainly a lot to celebrate. I was never a sports person at university, but I am very passionate about university sports now, just having worked with Stephen and his team for the past 5 years. All that's left for me to do is to thank Stephen for his time this evening and for sharing such a wonderful story of growth, development and ongoing sporting success. Thank you to the team behind our Saints Talks for bringing such inspirational and informative news from St Andrews to the wider community and for running the tech behind the scenes. And of course, thank you to all of you for tuning in, and we do hope that you've enjoyed hearing from Stephen today. Our next Saints Talk will take place just next week on Thursday the 4th of December, when we will be joined by Dr. Maggie Ellis with her talk, The Gift of Curiosity, the Importance of Remaining Curious to the Communicative Actions of Individuals Living with Advanced Dementia. This is a topic that I'm sure will resonate with many. Thank you again from the University of St Andrews, and wherever you are in the world, please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Kitty. Thanks all. Bye-bye.